Okay, yeah, so we can just start right in. First of all, do you want me to include your name in this, or like it's up to you whether you want me to.
It's public. I mean, it's not. You can't hide anywhere. My name is Melvin Padilla, Chief of Police, Bedford Police Department, Westchester County. I started my career with New York City Police Department in 2000, the year 2000, and left shortly after 9/11. Started here in Bedford in 2002, and have worked here ever since.
Sergeant Richard Hewitt. It was something I kind of picked up when I was going to school. I was going to college, and kind of never really hit me at first. And one of the guys that lived next door to me had books on, was taking criminal justice classes, so I started sitting there and checking into them. I'm like, this is kind of interesting stuff, you know. And I've always, I mean, you always want to help people, you know. I guess you look at it as like you wanted to get into a line of work where you could maybe make a difference and try and help somebody. So it all kind of fit together, and luckily I was picked, and you know, we went through the process, the selection process, and here I am, 22 years later.
But for me, I just always knew it's just odd. You know, something you can't put your finger on. My father was a sergeant in state corrections, and my uncle was a detective with NYPD. And I don't know if because I was around it and I saw it when I was young that I just identified with it, or what happened. But I have pictures when I was a baby, literally standing in my father's boots. So there's just an overwhelming kind of a sense of purpose. It's an opportunity to affect people's lives in a positive way, and feel as if your contribution to society is real and tangible.
The surprise and the kind of like the not knowing what the next day is going to bring is, you know, probably the part that attracts me the most.
Or the draw for policing is that it's not the same monotonous thing every single day. You don't even know what you're going to get into every day.
We do have your general business area. You get a lot of vehicle and traffic violations, that kind of stuff. You do get the burglaries here and there. Thank God, nothing really. Although it does happen occasionally, but you know, not to the point where it's an everyday. And I think what happens is people see these shows and think that that's what happens all the time. You know, and if you were to come out and ride around for 4 days here, you may have nothing happen in 4 days except alarms and maybe an 80 case where somebody got sick, or you know, that kind of stuff. Or you could go 4 days of like going call to call, an assault, a domestic. You know, it's it's like hit and miss. You know, it's potluck. You don't know what you're going to get when you walk in the door. So there are the moments, there are the days when you may not have much of anything going on. You know, could be relatively slow, and then there are the days when the world falls apart. You know, we put in the town of Bedford we have 3 posts. So there's Katona, Bedford Village, and Bedford Hills. So the least amount of people we can have working on the road is 3. And if something goes bad, like if there's a real bad call or something, 3 people a lot of times is not enough to cover the entire town. So, you know, you try and you make do with what you have. But the regular days, you come here, in my position as a supervisor, you would come in a little bit early, go through your calls for the day that you know, from the previous 2 tours that you weren't here. You look at your emails and see if there's any emails that have been sent out, you know, crime pattern stuff and stuff that, you know, the patrol needs to know about. And then you'll have like a roll call where you get everybody together and you kind of give them the list of things that you need to get done today, because we have a daily diary, and what will happen is the to-do list comes up, and that's got to get done, that's got to get done, that's got to get done. But other than that, you know, these things are what happened the night before. Keep an eye out for that, and then they get the cars and off they go. And they kind of, you know, like I said, it's you know, it's a roll of the dice.
With policing, you don't know who you're approaching. You don't know what's in that person's mind. So if they're driving through town and we may be pulling them over for a brake light, I mean, something very simple like that, but they just did something fairly serious, and they think you know they just did something fairly serious, and that's why you're pulling them over. People kind of always say, oh, well, the officer was so strict, he was so, you know, I'm a good person, why is he treating me like I'm a criminal? And the reason why isn't that we believe you're a criminal, it's that we have to kind of act that way to everyone to protect ourselves. You know you're a good person, but we don't know you're a good person yet. You could have just robbed a bank. We have no idea.
You know, I mean, you're always concerned. I'm more concerned with the people that work for me, something happening to them, because I'm responsible. You know, I feel like I'm responsible for them as their supervisor, so I would feel more worried if something were to happen to one of them than it would be even to me. You know. But you don't go out there, or I don't anyway, at least with that in the back of my mind that something bad's going to happen. Try and block it out.
You kind of have to keep your head on a swivel, and especially in today's climate in which, you know, police are kind of not as held in high regard as they were in the past. And that's unfortunate because the vast majority of police officers just want to go out and do a good job and help people, not be a negative influence in any way. So it's kind of unfortunate.
And that's kind of generational too. I mean, there are people that are my age that I don't think you're going to run into the same, and it's not resistance, it's just like you said, you know, maybe a little bit more suspicious, you know, with what's going on in the, you know. So yeah, I guess in a way, but it doesn't seem to, you know, people have always been suspicious of cops. I mean, it's never been where, oh, everybody, you know, the cop, you know, if you're not a good person, you're not going to like the cops. So, you know, if you did something wrong, obviously you're not, you know, you're going to have a problem. A major, you know, something like, has it like just exploded because of what happened out in Missouri? I don't think it's really come to, you know, it's reared its head.
I mean, obviously I wasn't there, I can't comment directly on that. But in general, I'm saying one circumstance or one action of one police officer or one group of police officers, it wouldn't be very a good thing to do to paint with a broad brush. Every police officer is now, you know, we all abuse criminals, or, you know, we use excessive force or different things like that. Has it occurred? Yes, it's occurred sometimes, but that doesn't mean that every officer is abusing people. So it's difficult because sometimes the coverage is less than, the media coverage is less than responsible in how it's covered. It instead of being just about the facts, many times there's an angle, there's an agenda that's being pushed, and that influences people. And so on many occasions now for police-public interaction, there's a certain tense, unnecessary tense situation that exists not because of the officer that's standing there and the person that's standing there, or even the circumstance, but because of another unrelated incident somewhere in the country, whether it be in Staten Island or elsewhere, and now all of a sudden there's an aggression that says, I'm not going to be a victim too.
If somebody does something wrong, they've done it wrong, or the officer perceives they've done it wrong, who they are doesn't come into the, you know, equation.
Obviously, discrimination exists. It would be foolish to say that it doesn't. Of course it does. But I can't speak to it I'm a Hispanic male myself, obviously a minority. I have not experienced some of the things that other minorities are describing. So it's not to say that what they're describing is not truthful or genuine. I haven't experienced that. And I think that sometimes there are other factors that may have influenced a certain situation other than the fact that the person involved is a minority. And so every single time is not a racial situation.
There are certain jobs and certain times when people deal with the public when, you know, a bunch of men come through their door. And it might not even be a confrontational thing immediately, but they see three big men, you know, in uniform, it automatically is going to kind of up the tension level where, you know, you may have a female come in the door first, and it may take a completely different, the situation may take a completely different turn, because, you know, everybody has different tools that they bring to, to the job. And I like the fact that we've, over the 22 years that I've been here, there hasn't been enough, you know, representation of, you know, with women being police officers. I think that maybe that's sometimes where if there is going to be some kind of friction between the public and the police, that maybe the police think the cops think that they're this, and they can get away with more because they're cops. It's really, actually, if anything, it goes the opposite. Police can get away with actually less than you would think, only because people are, we're responsible for what happens. And I don't go around looking, thinking, oh, I'm a cop. I special. No, and like I said, I can't speak for everybody. That's definitely not how I've been doing it. I'm just a person that wears a uniform. I don't, 8 hours is over, I go home.
As a chief administrator, it's important for me to really invest in the community relationship that we have, because this department in our community, we have a very good relationship. And that's the stem, I think, of a lot of what's going on throughout the country. It's born from a fractured relationship between the police and the community they serve. And so our department enjoys a really good relationship with our community. And that doesn't just happen. I mean, that happens, over a long period of time. But our community, we respect our community, and our community respects us. And so we're not necessarily experiencing the level of tension that other areas are experiencing.
It's got, over the 20 years, the technology has changed way past myself. The older guys, and now I'm an older guy, I never really, I think of myself that, but, older guys now, we didn't start with computers and laptops and, all this fancy, you had a radio and you had your flashlight. And that was it. Now the car has a printer, the car has a computer, the car has GPS, the car has an LPR that reads license plates. It's like a rolling office. Yeah, there's a lot. The cars have a lot, and then none of that stuff was in there when I started, and I can't imagine what the cars are going to look like in 20 years from now. I don't know. I don't know if I probably won't be here at that point, but I mean, that way it's definitely changed. I mean, the people are people. They don't really, change. There's always going to be the 98% of the people, the people that are really nice and really like to help, are thankful for the police, and there's going to be the 2% that no matter what you do, they're not going to be happy and they're not going to let, so.
We've lost our neighbor, if that makes any sense. The internet has created kind of a global neighborhood. So it's brought the globe kind of together, but created distance between neighbors. Very rarely are you in the conversation with the person you're with. You could be sitting at a table, you're all out to dinner. Very rarely are all of them involved just in that conversation of the people at the table. Many of them are texting somewhere else. Everybody is somewhere else now, and not where they're actually sitting.
It seems as if people just in general don't have contact with each other anymore, to where I can call my neighbor because he's running his lawnmower on a Sunday, which you're not supposed to do, and be like, hey, could you please turn off the lawnmower? It's blah, blah. Now it's, let me call the cops and have the cops go up there and tell the guy, which, listen, he's not, he's violating the town ordinance, I got it. But there is that kind of law, and I think it probably goes societal too, because now people don't even talk to each other anymore, they text each other.
That seems like the ultimate irony to me, because as good as the internet is in many different ways, I just think that, like I said, neighbors don't know it. Even from a police perspective, they'll call because there's something going on at the neighbor's house that's annoying them, whatever it is, loud music, whatever. And so the first question is, did you call them? Because a lot of times your neighbor, and you can say, hey, it's a little loud over there, can you quiet it down? No. It's almost like, no, I didn't call them. I didn't even think of calling them. I mean, some people don't even know their neighbor's name.
It kind of falls into the same, I'm having contact with you, but I'm doing it like this. It kind of removes a level of the actual personal contact. Right? The same happens. Now they call the police because they don't want to, they want to talk to that person, but they don't want to talk to that person. So they have the police do it for them.
And so, I don't know the direct point of what I'm saying, but if we're talking about an evolution and maybe how technology has affected our society. I think we've become too dependent on gadgets and released ourselves from personal responsibility in meeting people and creating conversations and relationships so that issues can be resolved through conversation without litigation. Because everything doesn't need a lawyer. It could just be, hey, I didn't even realize I was bothering you. No problem. Done. You know, but now the police are involved, your attorney's involved. You know, when I was a kid, if the police came to your house, you're in trouble. Not from the police. I'm saying, my parents would be like, why are the police at my house? Whatever you did, even if it wasn't wrong, we don't want the police here. Or if your teacher called. Why is your teacher calling here? You know, and now it's, why are you calling here? My son or kid didn't do that. There's no way they did that. I think if we could get a good mix of kind of old school and new school, I think we'd all be better off. You know, take your face out of your phone, talk to the person in front of you, actually be there, and I think we'd all be in a better place. It's very likely that students or whoever is watching this video right now, somebody is texting out. Somebody's not listening to me. So, as they just put their phone down.
I don't know. There's really the hours for work. That would be the thing that, I mean, the dislike is a strong word. You don't dislike. It just comes, it's part of, you know, being a police officer. You may not like the hours. My family certainly could take better hours than they get sometimes, but, you know. Well, it's a 24-hour department, so you need 3 officers covering 3 posts 24 hours a day. How that gets set up, what they do is we're set up in squads, and there's 5 squads, and we work a rotating schedule. So I'll do a week of day tours, which are 7 to 3. Then you're off 2 days. Then that third day off, you come back in at 3 o'clock, like we're doing now. We'll work 4 days of that. So I'll work 3 to 11 for 4 days. I get done at 11 o'clock. I have 2 days off. Then on my third off day, I start 11 o'clock at night. And then we do that for 4 days, and that's just round and around and around. So,
Anytime people know who you are or what you do, we're talking about cliche type things. Oh, he did it. You know, it's always, when you walk into a room, oh, there he is, officer, he did it. And they say it as a joke, because you're just coming into a store or whatever, and then 2 friends are standing there and say, oh, yeah, he did it, he's here for you. And it's a joke, and everybody laughs, and that's fine. But that happens with kids too sometimes. And so the kind of subliminal message is, anytime a police officer arrives anywhere, it's negative. Something bad is going to happen to somebody. And so, in that sense, people do act a little different, as if I'm always working and always in uniform. You know, not my family, obviously, but others may not say or do something they would normally do because you were there, you know, or even something simple that you did, because we're held to such a higher kind of standard. Something simple that a police officer does becomes front page news, where if Joe Everyday Citizen did it, it wouldn't even get a blurb on like page 87. Do you know what I'm saying? And so, because you kind of always have to be on, and making sure that you're not doing something that would reflect poorly on the department, your position in the department, or your family, or anything like that. It makes it difficult sometimes. That's not a complaint, it's just an observation. I mean, I'm used to it, so it doesn't really affect me anymore.
It's nothing you really even dislike and like about the job. It's the daily, day-to-day stuff. You never know what's going to happen. You know, you're kind of like, there's always that element of surprise. You know, in 22 years, you see a lot. You know, I've seen a lot in 22 years, but I'm sure there's things that I may never see. And if, you know, something else down the road that may come, that I'll be like, whoa. You know, make it be like, wow. So, I mean, the surprise and the kind of like and not knowing what the next day is going to bring is, you know, probably the part that attracts me the most.
I've been doing this for 15 years, and I was active duty in the Navy for 6 years before that, so 21 years of uniform service, and I'm not bored of it at all.
Shawshank Redemption. Don't ask me why. Every time I'm clicking through, whenever I see it, I'm like, wow, this is a really good movie. You know, you gotta stop. Even though maybe it's halfway through, I still gotta stop and watch it.
Favorite movie? It's gotta be, well, I should say one of my favorite movies. A Few Good Men. Officer and a Gentleman. Let's get out of that genre and say, favorite funny movie. You know, it's actually rare now that I really laugh out loud, bellyache, laugh hard movie. I can't even remember the last one.
And usually my wife is big, like, well, not big, but when we go to see something, it's always musicals and, you know, the old standards, King and I, and, you know.
Yeah.
I still like the music. And we went to this one, and there's no music. It's just like people on a stage, and it's like almost like a Rubik's Cube. It's like the inside of this guy's mind. And, you know, on stage, it was awesome. I was like, this guy. The guy was like 2.5 hours, just like